Hello, everyone. Welcome back to From the Stands, the college football game day show. My name is Brian McCardle. Alongside with me, as always, we have Andy Hopper to my left on the screen and Mr. Tom Scavetta to my right on the screen here. It is week 4. We got a lot of action on the books, so we'll jump right into it with a quick weekly recap here. Andy, let us know what you're watching week 3 and what caught your eye.
So my Illinois Fighting Illini won. I believe I'm the only undefeated team left on the show. Who would have thought?
Sir,
Oh no, you guys won last week. You
the
came back
comeback
and won.
is. Oh, yeah.
All right, never mind. I revoke that statement. But still, haha, Tom, in your face. We're undefeated and you're not. But Illinois beat Central Michigan at home. Homecoming win, 30-9. Not like too much to talk about, but Altmaier was 19 for 29, 242 yards and 2 scores. Pat Bryant had a hell of a day through the air. Those 2 touchdowns were to him. 7 catches on 9 targets for 102 yards. Really, really liking what Illinois has been able to do so far, as well offense as well as defensively. They are just incredible at taking the ball away. Aaron Henry, in his second year as a defensive coordinator, has really done a good job of being able to disguise coverages, and they've done a good job of confusing quarterbacks and giving them a lot of different looks so far through the first 3 weeks. A couple other games that stood out to me. How about a couple games on Friday night that ended up being, well, one of them ended up being pretty good, another one not so great, but UNLV taking down Kansas on the road. The once-ranked Kansas Jayhawks lost 2 in a row. And then Kansas State absolutely dismantling Arizona 31-7 at home. Teteroa McMillan had a hell of a game. He had like 10 catches for 100 and some yards. But I was not super impressed with Noah Fifita on Friday night. I thought he kind of was very rushed and was trying to force some things in there when he didn't really need to. And then Alabama 42-10 over Wisconsin. This is one that we were all over this, guys. We couldn't have been more right about this one. Just an absolute shit pumping for the Crimson Tide. LSU ref show, guys. Did they an absolute ref show at the end of that game to get them a 36-33 win? And then Boston College, I was really, really impressed with the Eagles and how well they played against Missouri. I think they have an opportunity to be a really good team in the ACC this year. And then I just got a couple more here. Washington State over Washington. I mean, it's cool that they played this game at Lumen Field, but this really should be a home-and-home rivalry every year. It just means more when it is on one of these campuses, whether it's in Pullman or in Seattle at Husky Stadium. And then the last one I wanted to mention here, the last one would be Texas and UTSA, not because it was a good game at all, 56-7 final, but Quinn Ewers leaves the game. He got injured. I believe it's something with his like a abdominal or a pec injury or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but boys, enter Arch Manning. Very first play of the game. Fucking Ewers isn't even all the way off the field in the medical tent yet. Like hobbling off the field. Arch runs on. You have the entire DKR on their feet fucking cheering. His very first play is a touchdown pass. Like a 25-yard touchdown pass. UTSA actually did come back and score right on their next drive. But then on his next drive, it was like 3 plays and he had like a 67-yard touchdown run, which is just unreal. Like Mannings are not supposed to be athletic, but I guess he is Cooper Manning's son. He is not Peyton or Eli's son, so that might make a little bit of a difference. Coop was a receiver in his day, so maybe a little bit more nimble. But he finished 9 for 12 with 223 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air. Like I mentioned, the rushing touchdown as well. And he is starting this week, guys. So those are the big ones that stood out to me. Sorry, I know I always go way too long on these because there's just I love football. What can I say? There's too many good games on.
Yeah, it's hard not to when you got that much good action on. But yeah, the prophecy has been fulfilled. Arch Manning starting for Texas. Tom, let us know what you were watching in week 3.
Notre Dame proving that Purdue students eat corn the long way, getting back on track with 66-7
Those fucking
win.
nerds.
Georgia surviving Kentucky 13-12, rivalry revenge game. Brock Vandegrift almost leading the Wildcats to a comeback. Kirby Smart saying that Georgia did not play well most of the night. However, they were without 2 of their starting offensive linemen, Carson Beck, and that offense get the job done late, and the defense holds as well. Questionable call on Malachi Starks at one point in this game, but the Dogs drop to number 2, and Texas moves up to number 1, although it doesn't matter. We're 3 weeks into the season. The final rankings that matter are the final CFP rankings, of course. Alabama destroying Wisconsin on the road after a week we thought where their play was questionable. Andy mentioned this earlier. Boston College, impressive. in defeat, which is hard to say, but Mizzou, the number 6 ranked overall team in the nation, barely surviving there. I think this bodes well for Boston College moving forward. And I think Bill O'Brien has instilled a lot of confidence in his team. Thomas Castellanos is a criminally underrated quarterback for them. And then, yeah, LSU escaping South Carolina. I think you look at this game and wonder, is LSU bad, or is South Carolina growing and developing from their upset scare against Old Dominion back in week 1, right? LSU already lost to USC. And it's interesting because now LSU has a lot of tough games coming up. Let's see how they could respond coming off a 3-point win, barely surviving. And Andy, admit this man to man, you were right about Washington State.
Tom, I will say on the history of this show, when we have gone head to head, it has not always gone well for me. So I will say it was nice to win one. I do apologize if that ruined any of your, financial investments in said game. Guys, how about this live score? I know this is going to come out way later than this, but we talked about App State's helmets they're wearing this week in the chat. They are down 28-0 going into halftime at home against South Alabama. Oof is right.
Looking good, but not playing good. Yeah, for me, a lot of the same games as you guys. Georgia, I watched that one with bating breath, barely surviving over Kentucky, 13-12. Yeah, I mean, Georgia something needs to click with them with the off-field issues and the way that they're playing. I mean, they just don't really look like a top 4 team at this moment. I mean, yeah, Kentucky came to play and did give them a fight, but Georgia should have won that handedly. Alabama, Andy, you said it. We called that when you looked at the Wisconsin team, you didn't think they were going to do it, and they just get absolutely waxed by Alabama, who just seems to like level up every time they have a close game against USF. So maybe Wisconsin was doomed from the start anyways by being scheduled right after USF. Mizzou over BC, but it was a close game. And I think that one, it was a good game, but I think that's almost a little bit of like Mizzou is barely overranked and BC is barely underranked. So it was a lot closer than a lot of people were thinking. Notre Dame, obviously, huge recovery, 66-7, just an absolute beatdown. Oregon was on my radar. They finally looked, competently good, beating Oregon State 49-14. Looked really good in that game. FSU straight dookie. UCF comeback kids, game-winning drive to take it 35-34 over TCU. And if we stop the season now, if there's a giant hurricane or tornado that just takes out the Big 12, UCF wins the Big 12. We're the only team with a win so far. So, Mother Nature, if you're listening, hook us up. Next up, we got our first segment of the day. It is buy or sell. We got a few CFB stories here, and we're going to buy or sell which way we think these should go based on these stories at hand. This week, we got an NIL/transfer theme here, starting with the first one, Arkansas Athletic Director and their NIL solution. AD Hunter Yurachek proposed an easy NIL solution for Arkansas fans Monday. If you want to call it easy, that's in air quotes. He says, if we can get 10,000 households across the state of Arkansas to give $100 a month all year long, we would be in the NIL game from a football perspective. It's that simple. Andy, are you buying or selling that this is a legitimate path to getting your team, let's say, in a competitive state here? Mike? You are muted, sir.
My fault. But yeah, what fucking planet does this guy live on? that he thinks there are 10,000 households in Arkansas that can afford $100 a month. The median income is like 56 grand. It's come on, man. Like, shit's expensive these days. People don't just have $100 to throw around, let alone, like, let's look at the ticket prices to get into the fucking game. How much are they spending a month on tickets? We're going to have a conversation about that in a couple minutes, I'm sure, with one of our other topics. But I don't know, man. Like, he was quoted as saying everybody's like, oh, because, there are quite a few very affluent families, right, that are Arkansas affiliated, Arkansas alums. It's, you have, God, what's his name? Jerry Jones, JB Hunt. You have the Tyson Chicken people. They got some money, and like Yurachek was Walmart. Yes, the Waltons as well. Yurachek was basically like, well, all our fans think, they'll take care of it. And it's like, well, he said they've been very generous, but we can't expect them to do it all. But I don't know, man, like maybe some type of NIL package, but I don't know about $100 a month every year, man. Like, especially for a team that, I mean, your head coach is 25 and 26 in his tenure. There hasn't exactly been a lot to be excited about for Arkansas football the past, few seasons. But yeah, man, I mean, it's a creative idea, I guess, but Yurachek, I think he's making $2.5 million a year, probably more than that. Like, why don't you start throwing some of that Chad into the fund? Where's your $100 a month, sir? Maybe a little bit more than that. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm selling this. I'm not in. I think I don't know. Maybe buy the idea, but I just don't know if $100 a month is plausible. And if that's what college football is turning into, I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah. Tom, buy or sell on this idea?
Sell. This is complete bullshit. Tennessee got a 5-star quarterback in Nico. What was it? $8 million, that NIL
Yeah.
deal. There's just no way. 10,000 fans donating $100 a month all year to make the team competitive. If that's the case, then leave the SEC. And the fact that we're having this conversation tells you that NIL needs to be adjusted somehow. It's heading in the wrong direction for a lot of different reasons. There is some good out of this. I'm not one of those people that's going to come out there and say, the NIL stinks. I don't entirely think that's true, but you can see where I'm coming from here, right? It's one of those situations where who has more, you don't want it to become a business, and that's what it's truly becoming. Like I've thrown that dangerous C word around, corporate. That's what I don't want to see college football turn into, and that's what it's starting to. So, yeah, like Andy Bryan, this is a hard sell. I'm not buying this.
Yeah, I'm gonna go sell for sales across the board here as well. I do kind of agree with Andy that if this was maybe adjusted in some way, or they had like an offering that made this worth it, you could do maybe go for like a 25,000 fan thing at like a $10 a month subscription. That's like kind of like the price. Your Spotify's, your YouTube's.
Yeah.
Give them something of value. I don't know what you're gonna give your fans for $100 a month, and especially the thing that got me was the all year long thing. The season is 4 months. 4 in a week if you're, good enough to get into the playoffs.
Right.
But yeah, Arkansas is one of the poorest states in the country, and this guy's like, oh, by the way, yeah, you guys can help us be really, really good if you just give us $100 a month. We only need 10,000 households to do it. Sir, your state is not really in the financial predicament to do that right now. And yeah, I mean, there's a concept of a plan here, is what I'll say. But yeah, $100 a month is just a bit too much for me. Next up, we have Memphis. Memphis head coach Ryan Silverfield thinks midseason transactions are only a few years away. He says he thinks there will be midseason transactions in college football in a couple years, meaning you could put someone on injured reserve and go and get someone from the portal in the middle of the season. Andy, starting with you, buy or sell, I guess, do you think this idea is even feasible?
I just don't know how this is going to work at the college level. It's not the same as the pros where you can just pack up and go. But I mean, like, are the transfers going to, like for their classes, like are the credits going to transfer over? Can you just get enrolled in new classes at this school, the school you're going to in the middle of the year and just be fine? Like, how does the academic side of it work? I mean, you're not going to, there's no way they're going to let them finish the rest of the year of football and not actually be, enrolled at the school, right? I don't know. I'm selling this. I just don't know logistically how this is going to work. And they'll probably prove me wrong. They'll figure out some loophole with the transfer portal to do it. But obviously, like in between semesters, in between the first and second semester, yes. But like, I just don't think, I don't know, like October, like we're coming up on October, like October 1, somebody on UCF or Notre Dame is like, all right, I'm going to go transfer to Oklahoma and play right now or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know how it's going to work.
All right, Tom, buy or sell on this idea from Ryan Silverfield here.
Yeah, this might surprise you guys. Unfortunately, I'm buying this one because, look, basically what this means is you can put someone on IR, right, and get someone from the portal in the middle of the season. Andy brings up a good point. How would this work academically? That's my biggest concern and question here that needs to be figured out. But look, with the way college football is trending, the NIL, nobody thought this would ever happen, right? And now it's happening. The same thing here. College football is all about the money now. Show me the money. What happens if, Jackson Arnold breaks his leg for Oklahoma? Are they going to go with the redshirt freshman that has taken 0 reps and have their season ruined? Or are they going to go in and try to get somebody to compete? Same thing for Georgia. God forbid Carson Beck tears Achilles. You'd be having the same conversation. Is Gunnar Stockton ready? I think it's BS. I think you just got to go with the next man up on the roster. And to be honest with you guys, it totally takes away from the integrity of the game. But I do think that, I mean, I never thought the NIL was going to happen. The fact that this happened, it leads me to think the Memphis coach isn't just saying this for no reason. Again, I don't know a whole lot about Ryan Silverfield. I haven't done my due diligence on the guy himself, but looking into this article, guys, this is not impossible, sadly. I hope it doesn't happen, though. I do hope Andy's right. I have a feeling they're going to pull some BS and get it to happen.
Tom, you made a good point. The player development is just gone. It's gone. It's like, no, it's you don't go anywhere and sit for 2 years or 3 years and get your chance. It's you're out as you just leave as soon as the grass isn't greener. And the schools are doing the same thing. You have young guys that just aren't always going to get an opportunity because they're just going to go get a fifth or sixth year fucking quarterback that's played at the FCS, wherever else. To take that spot. So I feel like it's really hindering or has the potential to hinder player development in college football if that trend continues.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go ahead and sell this one as well. But I do think, I don't know if we're going to be heading this way, but I do think Silverfield maybe has like some inside info on what coaches and big schools are maybe pushing for. Because I did see a comment on this article say that back in July, this is just post-spring training camp, Silverfield said, our guys are probably still being recruited right now. I've talked to a lot of SEC teams. They say they start recruiting our roster after the third game. So they're not even into the meat of conference schedules, and he's basically being told bluntly to his face that bigger, better, richer teams are already going after their guys. 3 games into the season, you're not even a full month into the season. So it's a dangerous precedent. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the model at this point is now purely capitalistic. So I don't know how you really stop it. I think the middle ground for me would be if you're in the transfer portal and not connected to a team, sort of like a free agency, then if there's an injury, you can be then picked up if you're not currently with a team. So if you're not on another roster, they can pick you up to replace an injury. That way you're not stretching your roster thin. But yeah, I just don't understand how you're going to go. Alabama wants a kid from TCU. Like, what? So you just drop all your classes, and what? He just picks up some random similar classes for a few weeks at Alabama. I don't know how that works for me. I think it would require completely breaking off academics from athletics, which, I mean, then you're getting into a whole nother thing. So for me, I'm going to sell this one as well. And then last up, we have Tennessee here. Tennessee has said that they are looking to add a 10% talent fee onto all football tickets starting next season. This fee will go to the players, helping fund the proposed revenue share with the players. UT estimates that per seat price increases will average about 4.5% for the entire stadium. Andy, buy or sell that this is going to be worth it for football fans?
I don't know. Everything is so expensive. I looked. So Tennessee's on the road this week, obviously at Oklahoma. Their next home game is not till October 12th. It's against Florida, so it is a rivalry game. I looked to see like what the cheapest ticket for that game is, just to try to get a reference of what this, what this price bump will be, and it's $350 for the 300 level, folks. The top of the top, like get in price, $350.
That's for which game?
The Florida.
Okay.
Their next home game. That's October 12th.
Okay.
I was just trying to get an idea on what this price bump will be. So what they say, 4.5% per ticket.
So they think that's going to be the average, but it's going to be 10% onto every single ticket.
Oof. So I don't know, man. I mean, I guess it's one way to get NIL, but I'm selling this idea just because I don't like it. I'm sure Tennessee fans are crazy enough. They're still going to pay, especially if the team's good. But I don't know.
All right, Tom, buying or selling this idea for fans?
Yeah, this is an absolute disgrace that this is even a topic of conversation on Tennessee's part. I don't like this at all. It's an awful look for the school and for the university. Talent fee just sounds disgusting. 4% for the entire stadium. That is really, really bad. I hope Tennessee loses every game. If they do this, I'll be rooting for them to go 0-12 No, I'm not kidding. I'll root for Michigan on the edge of my seat. I mean, look what I pulled with Ryan Day last year, guys. I can't stand Michigan. But after what Ryan Day said about Lou Holtz, I was on the Ryan Day hate train. Look, I'll be honest with you. It's disgusting. But All emotion aside, taking this in a more logical approach, it's not going to happen, in my personal opinion. Um, yeah, to help fund revenue share with the players, NIL is a disaster. There are a couple good things about it, but at this point, guys, everyone's like 24, 25 years old. Just graduate. Go to the pros, man. Live your life. What are we doing?
Create a
Why are we
LinkedIn
sitting here
profile.
talking about this?
Yeah, for me, I think this is the most likely of the three to actually happen, for what it's worth. But this is a sell for me purely on economics. Andy, like you said, that 350 for the Florida game, I did the same search as you. I looked at the Alabama game because I figured that would be the top ticket usually for Tennessee fans. That one actually only $13 more than the Florida game, which is a bit odd. But yeah, $363. So that 10% talent fee is putting you over 400, and that's just to get in the door. Fans are already paying so many fees for this and that. Every school is selling their tickets through Ticketmaster and Live Nation now, so you got the 15%, 20% tacked on top from that. This just seems like such a stupid way to get a tiny bit of money.
I know.
I mean, just on principle here, we'll do a little bit of rough math. If a stadium can fill 60,000 tickets, and your average ticket say is $60, you're looking at 4 million there per game. So by throwing this all on the fans, they're going to make $400,000 to split team to team. Just go get one more sponsorship from a car dealership and put it in the end zone. Like, why is an extra 400 grand? That's not going to do anything. So why?
Yeah, that doesn't even pay their quarterback's game check with this fucking $8 million deal, dude.
Exactly. So it seems a bit ridiculous. But I think Andy's right. If a team like Tennessee does this, people are going to bitch and moan, but 100% the fans are still, going to pay it, especially if the team is ranked like they are right now. So I'm selling it, but yeah, I think that one's a bit likely to happen. That'll move us into our next segment here. It is, of course, Parlay Party. We got a few restrictions here. Minimum of 4 picks for a plus 1,000 payout. We're putting $10 each on the line here as we do every week. Andy, starting with you, run us through your parlay here for week 4.
All right, so I guess I just have a theme for my parlays each week, and that theme is to just lose by 1, no matter what it is. Last week it was all road teams. This week I picked all favorites, not really trying to. So USC minus 5.5 on the road at God, okay, no, I thought I did pick 4 road teams again. It's 3 road teams and one team at home. But USC going to Michigan minus 5.5. I'm fading Michigan all year. I don't think they're a good football team. I think they lost too much. I should rephrase that. They're a good football team, but they're not that great. I think USC is better. I don't think USC is quite at the level of Texas. I don't know if it gets that out of hand for the Wolverines, but I like USC to win this game by a touchdown at least. Then we go to Tennessee, a team we were just talking about, Tennessee at Oklahoma. I adjusted the spread a little bit. I think it's currently at 7.5. I took it down to 6.5 because I think they can easily win this game by a touchdown. I think Oklahoma's looked okay this year, but I've been a lot more impressed by Tennessee in that high-powered offense. Obviously, that's easy to say when they're fucking hanging 71 points on people. But you know what? I was really impressed by them going on the road to NC State and playing the way they did. I think Oklahoma's a better team than the Wolfpack, but I do think Tennessee takes care of business here. I think they really are one of the best teams in the country. And then we will go Kansas State at BYU. This is one of the last games of the weekend, Brian. We were talking about this, how you hate having a game in the late window. So with my luck, I will be 3-0 to this point, and they will absolutely devastate me. I just think Kansas State's a better team here. Obviously, I watched them beat the fuck up on Arizona after I was all over Arizona last week. That might have a little bit to do with this, but not as much. I truly do think Kansas State is the better team here, and they should be able to bully BYU in this game. And then Indiana, minus 27.5. They're hosting Charlotte. They have been on an absolute roll. They are undaunted, my friends. So minus 27.5. I think the line actually is 28.5 now. I adjusted it for a 4-touchdown win. I think they will be able to do that. They just hung 44 on UCLA. The week before that, they scored 70. I like them to take out Charlotte pretty easily here at home. A little bit of a lower payout here this week, folks. I'm just trying to see one go through the hoop, okay? Just got to see one green. So $10 to win a 104.61. It's plus 1046 for my parlay. So that'll do it for mine, folks.
I like it. Yeah, Andy, second week in a row for everyone. He's right on the doorstep. Only one game off winning last week's parlay. So let's get him over the hump for week 4. Tom, give us your parlay here.
All right. So you guys know I kind of like to risk it for the biscuit. I went 6 legs. So first and foremost, Illinois plus 10.5 at Nebraska. There's no way they lose this game by more than 10 points, in my personal opinion. That comes in at minus 160. I don't think Dylan Raiola is as good as he thinks he is. I mean, Nebraska's at home. Matt Rule's a really good head coach, but Illinois' defense is really, really strong. So I think there's a chance this will be a very low-scoring game, and I can't see Nebraska winning by 2 touchdowns. I just can't. Next up, USC at Michigan under 48.5 comes in at minus 188. I think USC's offense will struggle a little bit on the road. I think Will Johnson, Mason Graham are really good defenders that, again, USC won't be scoring 4 or 5 touchdowns this weekend, but at the same time, Michigan's offense does not look good. They're making a quarterback change. I don't see them scoring too many points themselves. So, yeah, I think the under at 48.5 is safe. Next up, I took Utah plus 4.5 at Oklahoma State, minus 148. Cam Rising is starting, so that definitely helped me here. A lot of people like Utah to win outright in this game. I won't reveal my pick because it's on the card later, but I do think Utah covers that 4.5 point spread. Next up, I also went with the Tennessee-Oklahoma game like Andy, but I went a little different here. I took the over, minus 115. Look, Oklahoma is a Big 12 team at heart still. They minus one, or actually, in fact, I think Tennessee is going to blow the roof off of them. They did not look good.
Oh,
They did not look good against Houston, and they did not look great against Tulane either.
Mm-hmm.
Try telling me that Oklahoma is definitely going to win this game. Minus 115, I think going over 56.5 total points is safe. Last two here. Yep. Boston College minus 6.5 against Michigan State, minus 110. Feel good story to start the season. The Spartans winning 3 games, a nice upset over Maryland. Guys, don't let this fool you. The Spartans are not that good of a football team. They're still in the midst of a rebuild. Boston College is legit. They have a former NFL head coach as their head coach. I like their quarterback play. I love their offensive line. And yeah, that's where I'm at with them. And then Kansas State proved me wrong last week, knocked the socks off of Arizona. I mean, what could they do at BYU? Again, it's a tough place to play with all the Mormons, but all drinking their Coke and Pepsi. But minus 110, let me tell you something. I think Kansas State wins by 6.5. Avery Johnson's a real solid quarterback, so I think they win by at least a touchdown. If they beat Arizona by 23, it was 30-7 final score. They have to beat BYU by at least a touchdown here. So yeah, minus 110, and the total for that, I think it's going to be $10 for 274.23.
Very nice. For mine here, I also went with a 6-legger. Starting off, we got Tennessee minus 7 at Oklahoma at minus 115. Although I did like Andy's play to do the minus 6.5 alternate spread there. I guess if this turns into a shootout, at the very least, I think Tennessee gets me a push here because they still win the game. Next up, we have Tulane plus 3 at Louisiana. That's minus 215. I believe they were favored, but I gave them a few points just because I, like Andy, want to get that first win of the season. Yeah, they played really good against Oklahoma. And I've seen them play year in and year out because of the American Conference. They're a good team again here, so I think they take down Louisiana, but I gave myself a bit of a buffer. Next up, Miami minus 14 versus USF. Team looks really good. Defense looks good. Cam Ward is slinging it. USF is going to be tired. Some big games the last 2 weeks. I think Miami can take them down by 2 touchdowns. I think I sold a few points there. It's minus 207. Next up, TCU money line at SMU. Obviously, I watched that game with UCF. We got a bit lucky. I mean, our offense is good, but we did get a bit lucky there against TCU. They look really good as well. SMU not on the level of either of those teams right now, so that money line looked good to me for minus 142. Next up, Toledo taking on Western Kentucky. I went with the over here. This was actually on the cards on our shots and chaser card upcoming, obviously at over under 62.5, which is why it was on the card because it looks like it's going to be a shootout. Or at least Vegas thinks so. It has been dropping steadily, and it was already on my card at 62.5, so over 59.5 is what I'm taking here. Minus 110. Both teams love to score here. Next up, and last on the card, Ole Miss, minus 10.5 first half score versus Georgia Southern. That's minus 110. And for posterity's sake, I will say I had Ole Miss minus 28, but the line has gotten so high that DraftKings has taken down alternate spreads here. So I've replaced it with this, but I will say, so it's on the record, if Andy, who's going to put in my card here, can find Ole Miss minus 28, instead I will swap that out, which will be a slightly lower payout. But as is, it's minus 10.5 first half versus
I
Georgia
love the
Southern.
first half play though.
It
I
does seem
actually really
juicy,
like
right?
that. Yeah.
2 touchdowns. Um, and it's enough that Georgia Southern can kick a field goal and still get it in there. So it's a good filler for now.
Add it to my card.
So that is $10 to win 282.06. It is a plus 27.20 payout. And that will bring us into our final segment of the evening. It is Shasta Chasers, your roadmap to game day, starting out with our noon slot. We have number 21 Clemson taking on NC State. This game will be on ABC. Andy, who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I think this is a weird game. I was kind of surprised to see Clemson getting 18.5 points here. I know NC State, they're 2-1 to start the year. Obviously, they had that loss to Tennessee. Other than that, they haven't really had any world beaters on the schedule. It's a win against Western Carolina in a game that they had to really fight to pull away, and then a win over Louisiana Tech. Give me Clemson here, but I think they win by 14. I think NC State covers the spread. I think Klubnik starts to heat up a little bit. And Dabo, God, I don't like that guy, but I think I think he gets the win here.
All right, Tom.
Yeah, if there's a year for Clemson to restake their claim back in the ACC, it's this year. They're home going up against NC State, not a super hot team. Average quarterback in Grayson McCall. 3 touchdowns to 2 picks. Jordan Waters on the ground. Not too bad. Kevin Concepcion is the problem. Will Clemson be able to defend him? But I'm looking at Clemson too. They're coming off a bye week, an early open week for them. Cade Klubnik really maturing this season. Tight end Jake Brenningstool over the middle of the field. Classic tight end name, by the way. 2 touchdowns on the year already. And how about freshman receiver Bryant Wesco Jr.? 4 catches, 135 yards and a score. He is a big play threat. He's good in open space. My concern with Clemson is their weak pass rush. So I think Grayson McCall, who takes some time to decide, will have that time to decide. But all in all, I think Clemson wins. They don't cover the spread, though.
Okay, I will make a point here that maybe will address both comments that both of you made. So Grayson McCall, at least from the last report that I saw, is going to be out injured.
Oh.
And quarterback CJ Bailey will be making his first start. That was as of this morning. I don't know if it has changed, but that was the plan apparently. So I think, Andy, for what you're saying, I agree. The line looks ridiculous, but maybe there are a little bit of compensation there.
They always know more than I do.
Little compensation for a new QB being thrown into the mix here. Yeah, I do agree with you, Tom. Grayson wasn't off to a great start this season. Three touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And all of those touchdowns came in the Western Carolina game, so it's not like he's been performing well in every single game. That was a very isolated performance so far, and it wasn't against the best competition. So I wouldn't say losing him, if that is the case, and I go CJ Bailey, I wouldn't say losing him is a disadvantage here for NC State, at least in terms of skill. Bailey's he's a big boy, but he's a little bit lanky, 6'6", 190, and he can run. But all I'll say is the O-line better protect the hell out of him, because one big hit and he might get split in half if that Clemson D-line comes rushing through. A $190 for a 6'6" QB is quite small, quite small. So I'm going to go with Clemson here. Yeah, Klubnik looks good. Clemson's still a bit of a wild card, whether they're good or bad this year, but definite upgrade from DJ at QB, and they look steady enough to take this game. Next up, and the Chaser slot at noon, we have UNC taking on James Madison. A little bit of Carolina action here. Andy, who do you like?
Yeah, this is an interesting game, right? So North Carolina, well, actually not just North Carolina, both teams come into this game undefeated. JMU was a big story in college football last year, lost a lot, right? Head coach Kurt Cignetti is at Indiana now. Their starting quarterback, Jordan McClown, is down at Texas State. I like North Carolina here to take care of business. They're at home. They're 10.5-point favorites, and I think they're going to be too much for JMU this Saturday.
All right, Tom.
Look, young quarterback for the Tar Heels. The O-line needs to do a better job giving him time in the pocket, because they don't target Bryson Nesbitt nearly enough, which might hurt his draft stock. But Omarion Hampton is still in the backfield, over 400 rushing yards already. And NC State's defense has improved. I'm going to give Mac Brown some credit here. Amari Campbell and Caleb Cost back in the secondary. I mean, I think I see this game going one of two ways. It's either a shootout or a blowout. JMU, they run the ball well, but Alonzo Barnett III still has a lot of maturing to do. Now, each of these two teams have one common opponent, and I don't like to make predictions based off of common opponents 3 weeks into the season, but The Dukes beat Charlotte 30-7. UNC beat Charlotte 38-20. UNC wins the game, but it's closer than you think.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to go UNC here as well, but I do think it'll be a bit of an exciting one. The matchup to watch is JMU's run defense against Omarion Hampton, who is leading the ground game for UNC. The Dukes, first two games, only allowed 120 yards on the ground, which is good for fourth in all of the Sun Belt. But Hampton, number 6 running back in the nation right now, averaging almost 140 yards on the ground. 416 yards total so far and 210 last week. So that's a lot to handle. I don't know if they can do it. Like you said, JMU is a good team, Andy, but they did lose a lot. So it's going to be a big adjustment going up there against UNC. And then UNC QB Jacoby Creswell. Obviously, week 1, UNC loses Max Johnson. Just what a rough career for that guy. Like 4 different teams, and just nothing has worked out for him. NFL pedigree, but just yeah, absolutely nothing. I kind of feel bad for the guy. But yeah, they struggled a bit under him. He gets injured, so Jacoby Creswell takes over. He started his career at UNC before transferring to Arkansas, and then another one. I think this has happened in every show so far since I've been back. There's been a player who transferred out and then just ends up coming back home to daddy. He is back under center for UNC. Yeah, I think it'll be exciting, but I'm going to give the edge here to the Tar Heels. Next up, the game we were talking about earlier, we have number 18 Michigan taking on number 11 USC. This game will be on CBS midday. Andy, who do you like to win this one?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier on my parlay, I like USC by at least a touchdown here. Look, guys, they're averaging 500 yards of offense per game. 336 of those are through the air. I'm just not sure the Michigan defense, that's currently ranked 167th in the country in pass yards per game, is going to be able to keep up. Look, Michigan is able to contain teams and stop the run really well, only allowing 70 rush yards per game. But I just do not think they have the offensive firepower here to keep up with the Tar Heels. I really like Miller Moss under center, and I think USC wins this game.
All right, Tom?
Yeah, look, welcome to the Big Ten USC. They're in for a tough game, I think. Michigan, however, is making a quarterback switch to Alex Orji. Davis Warren threw 6 picks within the first couple of weeks. He has looked absolutely atrocious out there. However, I will say Michigan's line has not given him necessarily a whole lot of time to make decisions in the pocket. But another thing, too, Arkansas State gave Michigan a run for their money right there, guys. That was not the ideal game. Colston Loveland is their leading receiver at tight end with 187 yards. For Michigan defensively, they're still stout. Josiah Stewart, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, Jashawn Bargum, they hold up well in that defensive alignment. However, Michigan has a -4 turnover ratio. That really makes you miss J.J. McCarthy, Blake Cora, Roman Wilson, Zach Zinter, guys up front, Carson Barnhart. Those guys really did a fine job last year for the Wolverines, and that's why they won the national title. You got a young Miller Moss coming in. He's stoked. He's already won against LSU. Woody Marks has been solid in the backfield for them. The one common denominator is that both of these teams love to throw to their tight end. Lake McCree, man, he's really, really good. My question in this game is, can you Lincoln Riley's defense hold up defensively? I think it won't be as much of a challenge for them because of Michigan's quarterback situation, which is why I'm going to agree with Andy here and say that 5.5-point spread is enough. It might have even went up at this point. USC wins.
Yeah, I'm going to go USC here as well. Like you guys said, rough start from Davis Warren. Alex Orji will get the start. Yeah, those 6 interceptions, you can maybe excuse the 2 against Texas. That's a really good team. But yeah, 3 last week against Arkansas State, you're on the bench. Like you're not starting the next game. That's clear. But yeah, it might be a bit of a rough start here for Alex Orji because speaking of tight ends, Tom, Michigan might not have theirs. Top tight end Colston Loveland might not be available after picking up an injury. He is still questionable, so that's going to be. I mean, you guys just talked about we don't know if they have the offense. If you're going to lose a top producing tight end while you're throwing a new QB into the mix, that's not a recipe for a good offense right there. Michigan's defense, they do like to get their hands up and disrupt, which I really like about this team, especially after losing so many pieces. They deflected 14 passes so far, notched 3 interceptions. Will Johnson, probably the leader on that defensive squad, has already taken one to the house for a pick 6. So, while the offense isn't there, the defense is at least looking pretty competent for them this year. As far as USC goes, they have the advantage of coming off a bye week, so just another thing to add to the advantage here. Maybe that'll cancel out the fact that this game is in in Michigan where it's going to be loud. My only concern here is USC's performance in recent history against top teams these last 2 years. 2020 and 2023, when playing top 15 ranked teams, at least ones that people would consider to have pretty good defenses. I think I only excluded one team, and that was UCLA from this stat. The Trojans went a combined 2-6 and gave up 307 points in those 8 games. That's an average points per game against average of 38.4. Not very great, especially when you can only pick off 2 wins in that stretch. They did bring in DC Danton Lynn from UCLA to help turn things around. The defense looks okay so far, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I agree with you guys that USC wins this game. And then in the chaser slot for midday, we have number 14, Oklahoma State, taking on number 12, Utah. This one looks pretty exciting on paper. Andy, who do you like to win this one? Microphone?
Keep doing it. There's shit going on outside of my room that I don't want to bleed into the sound, so I keep muting myself, and I just keep forgetting about it.
No
but yeah, anytime you have a college football game where the combined age of the 2 starting quarterbacks is 49, count me in. You have Alan Bowman, who's on his 3rd school. He's 24, and you have Cam Rising, who's on his 2nd school, who is 25. Oklahoma State getting 2.5 points. My concern for the Cowboys here is, guys, their defense has not been able to stop a fucking nosebleed. They are giving up 482 yards of offense per game. That's 240th in the country. 305 of those through the air, 157 of those on the ground. I like Utah, and if you're giving them to me at plus money with Cam Rising starting, hammer the Utes. They win on the road in Stillwater.
All right, Tom, who do you like for this one?
The question here is, as both teams come into this game undefeated, can Cam Rising learn how to play injury-free? And I can't believe I'm saying a 25-year-old college quarterback still needs to learn a thing or two. 7 touchdowns to no picks on the year. Brant Kuth, tight end, 3 touchdowns on just 8 receptions. Get him involved more. Money Parks, show me. He's been really solid for them. And then defensively, Van Fillinger, Connor O'Toole, they get to the quarterback consistently. Look out, Alan Bowman. Bowman is a little bit more erratic. He's also a good quarterback. He's an old fella, but he is prone to making mistakes, as where Rising is less at risk of making mistakes. The matchup here is Utah and their front 7 against Ollie Gordon II. I mean, 4 touchdowns on the season. If Oklahoma State can establish a run, then they have a chance, right? I'm looking at their receivers. They have some guys. Dazon Stribling and Brennan Presley are 2 guys to look out for. And statistically wise, their defense isn't awful, but Andy's right. They can't stop a nosebleed despite their 7 sacks. They just, for some reason, every year, I guess it's the Big 12 curse, right? Big 12 don't play defense. Pac-12 don't play defense. If you have 12 in your conference name, you can't play defense. So with all things considered, Utah money line straight up.
Yeah, I think that 12 in the name of those conferences is for average yards given up per play there, because offense only in those 2 conferences. Yeah, so Oklahoma State, they returned 21 of 22 starters from a team that's been very competitive the last 2 years in this conference. Oklahoma State's offense, 42.7 points per game average so far. They're looking pretty good. That's good for 18th in the FBS. You would think Ollie Gordon was a big part of those. He does have those 4 TDs. But he's my player to watch because the production has really not been up to the standard of someone who won the Doak Walker Award last year, leading the nation in rushing, preseason Heisman candidate this year. He's only got 216 yards on 62 carries so far in the first 3 games. I thought he would be going off against the lesser competition early in the season. That's good for only 3.5 yards per carry. That puts him. So I took out anyone who has not had 20 carries yet. Of running backs that do have 20 carries or more, that puts him still at 195th in the FBS in average yards per carry. So, yeah, he's still a phenomenal player, but not the production that Oklahoma State and fans were probably expecting to see to start the season so far. So Utah is going to have to wrap him up, but at least on the positive side, he's not doing too well to start the season. As far as the Utes go, like you guys said, Cam Rising back from injury. It is a hand injury, which is a little concerning, but he does have legs, so he can't take off running, dual threat guy. It'll probably affect him a little bit, but if they say he's starting, it's probably good enough. And then, as Andy was bringing up the ages, I as well have an age-based fun fact here. There are 10 starting QBs in the NFL this season that are either the same age or younger than both of the QBs in this game. Cam Rising 25, Alan Bowman 24. So that's a third of the QBs playing in the pros right now, younger than these two guys, who are both in their 7th year of eligibility. Yeah, Cam Rising back. Absolutely love that guy. Huge production, huge fan of him. So I'm going to give the edge to the Utes here and go with Utah. And then moving into our night games here, we have number 15 Oklahoma taking on number 6 Tennessee. This will be Oklahoma's first game as an SEC team. Andy, who do you like here?
I love Tennessee in this game. We talked about it earlier in the parlay party. I think their offense is just incredible. I think it's just way better than Oklahoma, and I don't know if the Sooners are going to be able to keep up. Tennessee averaging a whopping 643 yards of offense per game, 56.8. I'm sorry, 50. They're converting on 56.8 of the third down percentage, and then 63.7 points per game. Excuse me, for thinking it was 58, not 63. Yeah, they. I think they roll. I'm sorry, I really do think they roll. I know it's a road game. I know it's a homecoming for Josh Heupel, Tennessee's head coach. Obviously the famous Oklahoma quarterback. But yeah, I think he leads his team to a victory here, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be super close.
All right, Tom.
Yeah, to elaborate off of that, about 336 rushing yards on the ground per game. Yeah, Nico's been phenomenal. I'm not going to pretend like I know how to pronounce his last name.
Oh, I wouldn't blame you.
6 touchdown passes on the season. And how about Dylan Sampson, guys? 9 rushing touchdowns. We're entering week 4. Week 4 hasn't even started yet. He has 9 touchdowns on the season already. Yeah, he's on pace for at least 36 touchdowns on this season. Deshaun Bishop, too, is no slouch in the backfield. Deontay Thornton, good receiver. The Sooners played Houston and Tulane a little bit too close. I do like how Jackson Arnold takes care of the football for the most part, but he's also the team's leading rusher. They have very little run game. Defensively, outside of Danny Stutzman, there's not much, guys. Stutzman has 33 tackles on the season. Yes, they forced 10 turnovers in the first 3 games, but who have they played? Who have they played? And despite these turnovers that they're forcing, they're barely winning some of these games, guys. It is concerning. Yeah, Tennessee and -7. How about -17?
Add it to my card.
That card is getting thick, Andy.
Always too thick.
Yeah, doozy of a matchup here, especially for Oklahoma's first game into the SEC life. They get a top 6 team in Tennessee who's putting up so many points. It's honestly like there's not an opponent on the field. I know it's been 3 cupcake teams for the most part, but still, I mean, averaging 63.7 points per game, like Andy said. The fun fact on this one is that is only 15 points less than their basketball team averaged last year. So quite a potent offense that the Vols have here. Yeah, the mind of the Vols offense, Josh Heupel, taking on his former team where he led them to a national championship as their QB. And then on the other side, Oklahoma's coach, Brent Venables, was the DC of that same team with Heupel as QB. So it'll be an interesting coaching battle here for 2 guys who probably know each other very well. OU's defense is going to have their hands full here, but they have been forcing turnovers, which is a silver lining, I guess. 10 in the first 3 games, 6 fumble recoveries, and 4 interceptions. The thing to watch for me here is going to be that Tennessee, at least defensively, needs to match OU's intensity in the trenches. OU's been winning those battles so far this season against tougher competition than Oklahoma, while Tennessee's sort of lacked the type of production that you'd want to see against, at least the quality of opponents that they've been playing. They only have 4 sacks so far versus Oklahoma's 11. So yeah, that D-line really needs to get to the quarterback, put some pressure on him. He can run as well, so maybe try to keep him contained. And like Tom said, he's been doing pretty well, but I have seen some errant throws. So that's what their defense can do to help them out here. But I do agree with you boys. Tennessee takes this one because I don't think Oklahoma can stop this Vols offense. And then last up to close out the night here, we have Western Kentucky taking on Toledo. Like I said earlier, I put this one on the cards. It was the highest over-under that had the 2 teams under a 7-point spread. So this is at the time of filming, -2.5, and Vegas still thought this was going over 60 points. So we might have a shootout on our hands, boys. Andy, who do you like to win this one?
Well, Brian, I'm a little disappointed. I thought you put this game on the card because Western Kentucky is wearing their big red helmets. Some of the best helmets in college football. If you haven't seen them, it's their big red mascot holding a football. Awesome. Just an incredible look. But I think this is actually going to be a really, really good football game at the mid-major level, folks. Obviously, Toledo's coming off an absolute ass kicking of an SEC opponent in Mississippi State on the road. So, I like Toledo in this game. They're going on the road again to Western Kentucky. Look for Tucker Gleason. That's the quarterback. 662 yards on the year, completing 61% of his passes, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. How's that for a ratio? He's got 2 really, really good receivers. Junior Vandeross, the third, 225 yards and 3 scores, and Jerwan Newton, 11 catches for 200 and 4 scores. Jerwan had 5 for 64 and 2 scores in their last game at Mississippi State. I like the Rockets here. They're a very good football team. They've been a good football program in the MAC for a long time. I think they take care of business against Western Kentucky.
All right, Tom?
According to the record books, these teams have never met.
Oh.
So that's what makes this even better here. Tucker Gleason is a beast. First place in the MAC right now. He also, on top of those passing numbers, 285 yards last week with 3 touchdowns, only 5 incompletions. They average 42.7 points per game. He takes care of the football. He's got really good hand-eye coordination. Jerwan Newton, as well as Vandeross, is really good catching the football. Those two combined have 7 touchdowns, and Braden Alls defensively has 2 picks this season. For Western Kentucky, right, of Conference USA, I mean, their quarterback situation is a mess, right, between TJ Finley and Caden Veltkamp. And like Andy said, the Rockets just destroyed Mississippi State. Throughout the history of this show, I would go different here and take Western Kentucky and be fun, but because of the quarterback situation, I'm not, and the 3 of us all might be going 6 for 6 tonight, which means hammer Western Kentucky, take Toledo in this one, though.
That's true.
Yeah. Wait, have we been 3 across the board on every single game so far?
Believe so.
Oh,
Probably,
man.
yeah.
Well, man, I almost want to switch it up just to not jinx us. But yeah, I had Toledo down as my pick here as well. They pulled off the shock of the week last week, taking down Mississippi State. Brutal beatdown, 41-17. Just absolutely destroying the powerful SEC team there. Tucker Gleason made almost no errors through the air. Their running back room shared the load pretty evenly. 4 guys with, I think it was 9, 9, 10, and 16 carries there. Gleason gave some help on the ground as well with his feet. Just the offense looked really good, really methodical. There was no flashy play calling, trying to catch Mississippi State out. They just dominated the game, played their strategy. No super big attempts at big plays. And the defense also looked good. 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 4 pass deflections. And the interesting stat for me on the box score, only 26 solo tackles of 84 total. So they were making their tackles, but the guys were there to help each other out. They weren't leaving each other 1v1. They were making their tackles against a bigger, stronger team by boxing guys in, wrapping them up, and finishing their tackles. Yes, like I said, as far as Western Kentucky goes, don't know what the QB situation is. I don't think they've named the starting QB, so it is a bit of a mess. But I think you probably have to go with Veltkamp. He threw 5 touchdowns and was slinging it for 409 yards last week. I think that's good enough to get the nod over Finley. They're sort of pulling a Texas State. We spoke about Texas State last year, pulling in all these transfers from everywhere, and that's how they build their team. And ironically, TJ Finley was that QB at Texas State. Western Kentucky steals him. He was also previously at Florida. Elijah Young at running back was previously at Mizzou. They bring him in. And then their top wide receiver, Keyshawn Johnson, joins the Hilltoppers from Alcorn State. So an interesting mix-up here that they've got going. Toledo just looks really, really good here.
Finley's on like his 4th school.
Yep.
LSU, Auburn, Texas State, Western Kentucky.
Yeah, he's very deep. I think I said Florida, not LSU. Sorry for offending all the LSU fans there, associating them with the Gators. He's been all over the country so far. I like Toledo to take this one as well. So that is 6 clean sweeps for us to close out Shots and Chasers, and that will close out the episode here for Week 4. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Enjoy the games this weekend. Catch us back here for Week 5, and if you want to catch some more action, check out the links down in the description for Andy Hopper's show at the Brew Party. All his links will be down there, as well as Mr. Tom Scavetta's links down there as well for review and preview, and Big Blue Nation. That wraps it up for this week. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see everyone back here next week for Week 5.